Now, another story that's emerged this week is that there is yet another Premier League club hoping to expand their stadium. The Times are reporting that Arsenal are now looking at potentially increasing the capacity of the Emirates. They earned 102 million from games in 2022-23. Henry, I'll start with you on this. Do you think that this is a viable option for Arsenal, firstly, to expand the Emirates, given that they increased it, I think, recently by 800 seats? Can they do any more work on the stadium?
I mean, I can't see how they can actually add bits onto it in terms of raising it or even digging down. I remember when Sir John Hall and Newcastle United were wanting to be the sort of, the Geordie nation, like the Catalan nation, and they looked at what had happened at the Camp Nou, and Sir John called all this meeting of club staff and town planners and said, maybe we should do what they've done at Barcelona and dig down. And everyone said, well, that's a brilliant idea, until one sort of town clerk said, oh, there's one problem there. The metro runs under the centre circle, so you can't really dig down too much. So I don't know whether Arsenal can dig down, whether the Piccadilly line would have to be sort of diverted. No, it looks like they will, as they've tried to do recently, is sort of maximise the space that's in there. Look, it's a fantastic stadium. Was it now almost 20 years old? It used to be the best stadium in the country. It's not even the best stadium in North London now. They looked at their rivals, Tottenham, in a much more, they're very difficult deals to do these in terms of the space. Daniel Levy's done an amazing job with Tottenham's ground, which is probably the best football ground outside of Madrid in the world. It's magnificent. Whether Arsenal can maximise the concourses, the terraces, all the sort of merchandising and refuelling elements that go on in a club, and look at that element, whether they're looking maybe at a sort of tunnel club area. They've obviously got the sort of the middle tier where a lot of the corporates are, maximise that. But I think in the age of PSR, they're going to have to look at it.
I think digging down to the tube, it would give a different meaning to mind the gap for the supporters. Kieran, in terms of match day revenue, I think Arsenal were the top club in terms of bringing in revenue, certainly recently. Does it surprise you that they do want to expand? How important is match day revenue to a lot of these Premier League clubs?
Well, in 22-23, Arsenal generated 22% of their revenue from match day, which is the highest of any club as far as the Premier League is concerned. You've got the three main areas of revenue, which is match day, broadcast and commercial. Broadcast revenue, to a certain extent, is flatlining for about the last 10 to 12 years, certainly as far as the domestic deals are concerned. There is growth, however, as far as the Premier League's international growth, but that's outside of the remit of an individual club. Commercially, Arsenal have fallen substantially behind the other members of the so-called Big Six, and that's due to the fact that they didn't qualify for the Champions League, and I think that's an area that perhaps they could have addressed. So therefore, match day is something which they need to focus on. It's something they can control. They've got a huge waiting list as far as ticket applications are concerned, so that they know they sell every ticket out. The concern is how quickly you're going to get your return on investment, architectural costs, material costs, labour costs, transport costs, they've all increased substantially over the course of the last 5 to 6 years, which means that a big infrastructure project is complicated, it is messy. We've seen that Liverpool have managed to do it. Manchester City, I think, are planning to do it. There's talk about expanding Villa and Elland Road. So to a certain extent, you've got to be able to run to stand still. Otherwise, you will be left behind in the Premier League.
Paul, given Brighton's recent success, of course, the Amex is a relatively new stadium, but is stadium expansion something that they might explore in the future?
Well, you've been scaring me in the last 2 minutes talking about all of our big rivals getting bigger and bigger and growing their revenue. So I suppose we better get on with it. But no, there's only a limitation to the size of our stadium, which we're already at, to be honest, which is broadly around the 32,000 capacity. What we can do is add features around the stadium where we can then drive match day revenues, non-match day revenues even harder. But this goes back to what I said right at the start of the programme, really, about how hard it is to compete in the Premier League, because the bigger clubs are driving bigger revenues, and they've got huge fan bases, and those fan bases continue to expand and to grow, and therefore the opportunity for those clubs to expand their stadiums grows with it. For us, women's and girls football is an area where we want to focus over the next sort of 5 to 10 years. We're looking to build a specific purpose-built women's stadium, which will hopefully drive revenues right the way across the club and give us another venue in which to maybe stage other events as well as women's matches, our men's under 21 matches, and potentially other non-football related events as well. Next year, we've got 2 Rugby World Cup matches, which were women's Rugby World Cup matches, which we're really looking forward to staging at the Amex. So again, another way of driving new revenues. But it's a constant battle, and you know, where we can add seats, where we can expand in small parts of the capacity, we will do. But as Kieran alluded to, it is an expensive process to add to existing stadiums. You know, last year before, in fact, we dug out our Tunnel Club during the Winter World Cup, and you know, we've opened that very successfully. It sold out very quickly. So there is definitely demand for, you know, for fans to experience different things in existing stadiums, but it's an expensive process to create those opportunities.
Paul, a bit later on in the show, we're going to explore the idea of overseas games as well. You talk about other streams of revenue. Is that something at all that you can see happening in the future of the Premier League?
Sounds like the 39th game all over again, Henry, doesn't it? That's why you're breathing in there.
Don't go there.
If Richard Scudamore was here, I'd defer to him. I think it's a difficult one, to be honest. I mean, I think, you know, we all like to play overseas with our clubs because we, you know, take the opportunity to expand our fan base and visit the fans that support us from afar. I think playing competitive games overseas is, for me personally, a step too far. I think I'm still very much a traditionalist when it comes to domestic football calendars. I like games played home and away, giving fans in our country the chance to see their team in those fixtures. But I don't have a problem if there was to be a concept of taking a game or a small tournament overseas to different parts of the world, because I think, you know, we have got lots of fans outside the UK. We have got lots of broadcast interest from outside the UK, and it's great for our brand. But I think it is a big step when you take a competitive game away from a domestic league and play it in a different country. I think that's a very, very big and bold decision.
Well, Paul, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much indeed, and good luck for the season.
Thanks very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Paul Barber there, the Brighton CEO.